Hi, I'm Jamie Steigmaier, and you're listening to Board Chitless.
Hey there, Chitheads, and welcome back to another episode of Board Chitless. I'm Leki, and this week I'm joined by
Tristan.
And we've got a very special guest in the form of Darren Marks. He's the graphic designer for Whole Nothing Productions, amongst many other freelance projects. You can see his work on Gloom of Kilforth and 1066 Tears to Many Mothers. Welcome along, Daz.
Thanks very much for having me on, guys. Pleased to be here.
This week we've been playing Escape the Curse of the Temple and Scythe, but so people don't get too bored of us constantly going on about the brilliant game that it is, we decided to look more at the Automa rule sets from Morten Pedersen. Escape the Curse of the Temple from Queen Games. It's a real-time dice roller,
Adventure game.
Bit of a puzzler. It's absolutely wacky.
There's a definite is he cheating aspect to it.
Oh yeah, totally.
So basically, in this game, you take on the role of a pseudo Indiana Jones guy looking at the front cover who's exploring a dark temple, and you've got to escape a curse, and you've got 10 minutes to do it. There's a soundtrack counting down the minutes, and something like every 3 minutes, you'll get a big gong sound. And at that point, you've got to race back to the start, and then the door slams shut. And if you get caught before you get back to the start, you lose one of your 5 dice that you get to use to try and navigate the dungeon.
Yeah.
So you're flipping tiles to explore, and then after the door slams shut, you go running and exploring again, and you've got to keep exploring this temple, looking for the exit, and collecting crystals along the way. And when the gong goes the 3rd time, that's your last opportunity to get out before the door slams shut. So you've got this physical soundtrack timer counting you down, and it's real time. So you're all rolling dice at the same time to try and get out of rooms and find treasures and stuff.
Yes, and it's a little bit horrible in terms of trying to keep track of what the hell is going on.
And who the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, as well as the movement, it's the audio as well, because it's the soundtrack, which does get a bit unnerving, and it does get the heart rate up, and it's the sort of like clacking of everyone's dice and some dice falling off the table as well. So it's like, not a quiet game either, but enjoyable also.
There's a couple of expansion modules which we didn't use as well, which add fun things like if your dice does go off the table, you don't get it back. And like if you fail a trap, you have to keep your hand on your head and roll your dice with one hand and stuff.
Yeah, it's super thematic, isn't it? With all those sorts of things. And so the whole idea of you going out and collecting the gems, you've got a big pool of gems in the middle of the temple. And I think you start off with a 3-player game. There's about 13 of them. And as you collect them, then the pool dwindles, and that means that you can escape a bit more easily because they represent how many successes you'll need per player in order to escape. Only starting with 5 dice, obviously you need to get it lower than 5.
And the dice have like unique symbols on, don't they? So you might have to roll torches or running or keys, was it the last one?
Keys, yes.
And then there's black curse faces, and if you roll those, you actually lose those dice, and then to get them back, you have to roll yellow faces that unlock them again. And you can unlock the faces for other guys who've rolled themselves into death.
Yeah, you can help them out of trouble if you've not wandered off on your own into the middle of the temple, like I managed to a couple of times.
I think Daz managed that as well. Well, I think we all managed that at some point.
It's one of those games where the first game we all lost horribly. The second game we did a little bit better, and the third game nailed it.
We still lost horribly in the second game.
Yeah.
It was nice so that's 30 minutes playing with the curve. We went from absolute
tools
useless to and we were celebrating quite a bit when we managed to jump out of the last room for that final game.
It
was like, wow.
At the first game, I was like, what are these extra gems for? Why would you want to increase the difficulty? And then after the third game, we're like, should we put some extra gems in? Throw in the expansion stuff as well.
We can do this.
Yeah. But it's quite neat, the tile flipping thing. So you're just exploring. I mean, all the tiles kind of look the same, and they've all got doors coming off and stuff, but it's quite a cute little cursed temple adventure thing.
It's artwork by like formulaic artwork, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then with the expansion materials, there's lots of really cutesy things going on with that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of thought that's gone on behind it, and it's a super thematic game considering you're just chucking dice down and swearing at each other.
Just nice, simple colour recognition, which is quite hard under pressure, I've realised as well. Where it's, you're looking for the green running man and the red torch, and it's quick thinking kind of thing with that. But no, it's really nice and simple and clever, isn't it?
Yeah, you just have to roll really fast and hope for the best.
Did anybody else notice that they were suffering from icon dyslexia? So you'd be rolling, trying to get a man and a torch to escape a room, and then you'd roll them and then accidentally pick up your dice and roll again because you were looking at the wrong tile.
It's like if you've ever searched a PDF for one word, which you have to like correct the spelling of or something, and by the time you've read that word 30 times, it's meaningless and you don't even know what the word means. And it's kind of the same with the dice after you've rolled them like 100 times in the first 20 seconds. You're like, they're just pictures. I don't know what's going on.
I think I had an element of colour dyslexia as well. It was just, simple but hard to keep track of it when you're rolling so quickly and 100 miles an hour.
Yeah,
But,
and whatever you say about it, it doesn't outstay its welcome at 10 minutes per game. It's pretty tight.
Yeah, not at all. And especially with, like, you're making these super basic decisions, so you really just deciding, do I want to stay in this room and move into the next? Do I want to try and flip a tile, or do I want to try and score some successes? But because you're being pushed constantly by these jungle drums in the background, you do start making mistakes, and it's weird how they push you into little corners.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think communication's quite key as well. I found myself in the first game just in my own little rolling dice world where it's like you need to let people know what you're getting. And
Definitely, because if you don't, you just end up with 5 black dice. Just looking at the curse emblems like, okay, guys.
Yeah, well, we all learned pretty quickly to grunt at each other once we got a yellow dice base.
Red, torch. That was, but it kept you, key, whatever it is, blue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interestingly, I bought this to play with the family, but it was a bit too intense for the family, like a bit too scary with the soundtrack and everything. There is a sand timer you can use instead, but I foresee the big problem with that being that people would just ignore it. There's no bong or whatever when it gets to like the bottom, so you would just like be rolling and rolling, and 30 minutes later when you finish the game, like, oh yeah, we probably ran out of time a while ago.
Yeah, you could substitute it for like a sports timer or something, couldn't you?
Yeah,
Where it, like,
an alarm clock. It wouldn't be as thematic.
It wouldn't be the
It's kind of
same.
nice to have the beating of the jungle drums when the gong goes off and stuff.
And the third one, it's, I don't know who it is, the temple emperor. What does he say?
Escape. But he says it like with a really thick, like, I don't know if it's a German accent or something. It's just like, escape.
Yeah, very unnerving, but it does get you going though. But
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because being only 10 minutes long, it's a really great game to fit in before bedtime or to fit in before you're going to go out to work or something. But it gets you so like hyped up,
G'd up.
yeah, you're not actually going to do what you plan to do at the end of the 10 minutes. You're just going to like smash out another 3 or 4 games.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting one. I didn't know how it would go down well with you guys, to be honest. I thought it might be a bit too light for the group sort of thing. But like you say, as a starting game, starting to appreciate the value of these much shorter games now that you can crowbar in before anything else.
Yeah.
And in that respect, it's quite cool that you can just grab some bones, start rolling, and run around a temple and try and escape.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it'll be interesting to see how far they can push the mechanics of the game, in terms of the expansions. Some of them were really novel, so there was like...
Yeah, we're going to have to try with the treasures and curses.
Yeah, so there's like curses where they lock you into trying to find particular dice rolls just for you.
That's it. So if you draw... I think if you draw a cursed tile, you have to roll yourself out of it by matching whatever sequence it asks for, whether it's 3 torches or whatever.
Yeah.
And each of them has a significant punishment, like put your hand on your head, or silence, you're not allowed to talk, or if your dice roll off the table, you can't get them back. Forever. Yeah, or you're just stuck in there until you can roll yourself out of it. So various little things. And then there's treasures as well to sort of counterbalance it a little bit. And if you unlock the treasures, you can take them with you and spend them to get like 2 successes or whatever.
Yeah. That's a nice little addition, isn't it?
Yeah.
I felt...
we assume, having not played it.
Well, exactly. I felt like the push your luck element of the game works so well. I'd be rolling away and trying to get one extra torch so that we can get the gems a little bit quicker. And then before I've known it, I've like locked all my dice up, and then I need someone's help, and then I've got stuck, and then I've lost an arm.
Why is Leki sat there with his arms crossed? Why aren't you rolling? Oh, yeah.
Why did he stop shouting? What's going on? Oh, I see. Yeah, it's definitely a nice, fun, quick game. What was the price point on this one, if you don't mind me asking? Was it?
I don't mind you asking at all. I wish I could remember. I don't know. I think it was, I'm guessing about 30 quid or something, and I'm not entirely sure.
But all the expansion materials came in the box, didn't they? It's
Yes, so I'm assuming there was
expansion.
Earlier versions didn't include those because it refers to them as expansion modules, but they're definitely included with this particular one. And it's Queen Games who get a mixed rep, I think. But I think they've done all right with the components and everything. The dice are nice. The tiles are okay. They're quite bright and colourful. And there's not really much else to it. There's wooden meeples and...
Well, everything's pretty durable, isn't it? Like nothing's going to break or rip.
And it's 1 to 5 players. Ages 8 plus, apparently. Real time, plays in 10 minutes. And it comes with a CD, but I don't think anybody uses CDs anymore. And to download the soundtrack. And I think there are alternative soundtracks as well, so we'll have to play a different one next time and listen to different kinds of jungle noises.
Interesting.
And maybe a different voice going, escape!
Might be slightly more Polynesian than Aztec. We couldn't help but bring Scythe back to the table this week, and we've covered it before. We covered it in the first ever episode of Board Checklist, and we covered it previously as well. We've also talked to James Steigmaier in the past, so loads of episodes that you can pull out and learn a bit more about the game or a little bit more about the designer behind it. But the reason why we brought it out today was to look a bit more at the Automa rules. We've spoken about those sort of in passing, but we've never really played with them for the podcast.
We did have Morten Pedersen on as well, who designed the Automas with his team.
My God, is there anyone that was involved with Scythe that we've not interviewed? Perhaps the artist. Yeah. But yeah, so we went for it, didn't we? We had 4 Automa around for a free-player
we literally
game.
went for it. So we've got the expansions. We didn't put the Wind Gambit in this one because I didn't read the Automa rules in time. So there's 3 of us versus 4 Automas. Not really, it was all versus all. So the Automas were fighting each other, we were fighting each other. And we used both the expansion races as well, the Togowans and the Albions, which makes for an incredibly cluttered board and quite a lot of bookkeeping. I used the app, the Scythe Kick app, which is strongly recommended to anyone considering the Automa rules, because the Automa rules are pretty complex.
Is that official Steigmaier Games development, or is that
it's blessed by Steigmaier? I think. I don't
Brilliant.
think it's
but it's sort of like fan based.
It's built by a fan and brilliantly implemented, and it replaces the deck of cards that you would need for each AI Automa opponent kind of thing.
Nice.
We ran 4 of them on the easy setting, the automata setting, and went at it. And there was a little bit teething problems as we started to try and remember A, how to play, and B, I was trying to remember how to run the AI.
Yeah.
But once we got going, I think that went fairly
very
quickly. But maybe it was a bit much for the 3 of us to just throw everything in together. I don't know.
It got real very quickly, didn't it, really? Daz, you've played the game a few times before. How did you feel playing with the AI element?
You won the last game you played, right?
No, I did pretty poorly in the last one.
Okay.
I think you won the last one.
Like winning, but
the one before.
But the opposite.
As Tristan said, it was pretty cluttered, and spaces got taken up pretty quickly. It did increase the amount of combat. Like the few games I've had of it, there's not been loads of combat, and it was quite nice just going into skirmishes without any of the sort of fear of upsetting you or Leki. So you could get a few early battles in, and I got a few combat stars for that. But I think it all went to my head later on when I took on Tristan in a
final power struggle,
losing power struggle
towards
the end.
Factory, really, wasn't it?
So I don't know. It brought combat a bit more into it more so than I've seen in previous games. But yeah, there was the factor of the upkeep, but actually it did seem to speed up, and Tristan was on top of that, and it didn't really cause too much confusion. And setting up, it just gave me a bit more time to plan my strategies whilst Tristan was setting up the app. But no, I think it was, it'd be interesting to see what they're like on the higher difficulty levels. I don't know.
Just wipe the floor with us.
Yeah, I think so, maybe. But
I don't think I could handle it. I got 34 points that game, and I didn't even get in a fight, let alone win one.
It was very unlike you, to be fair. I don't know if you were just off your game, but I think you placed 1 star, which I've never seen you do that before.
Ridiculous. It was a pity star.
You were star shy.
It was well, I worked
Starstruck.
I worked really hard at getting all my enlistments out, and then once I'd recruited all my little lieutenants, I just kind of went to sleep and turtled. I seemed to be doing a lot through the game, but I think I was just kind of going through the motions and trying to avoid the Automa plays a bit too much, and I was probably being a bit too good at not really interacting, and then that came back and bit me on the bum, because when everyone had got quite a few stars out and the Automas had got most of their stars out and we were starting to think about end game, I was like, oh no, I'm not even thought about mid game. And I couldn't really recover at that point. So it was just bad strategy and planning, I think.
They do, the Automas, even on the basic difficulty, they do spread across the map at an alarming rate.
Yes.
And because of the nature of this game, it's not really like Eclipse where you can build like a mega army to go and wipe out your neighbours. Your power fluctuates so much. You might get a couple of good wins, but then you spent all your power doing the winning, and you've got to build all that back up again. But whilst you're doing that, you have to be building your monuments and your people and listing and all of that stuff. So there's so much to balance, and I was quite alarmed at one point in the game when you and I both had 2 hexes, a 2-hex empire, whilst Daz, you'd spread out quite significantly. And then all around us, the board was just filling with this sort of quite aggressively quick-moving AI.
It was being mobbed, wasn't it? But
then it was quite funny when they started smashing each other up.
Yeah, exactly. But the Automa don't actually play by the same rules of the game as the players. So they workers won't move 1 hex at a time, and neither will mechs. They'll kind of like teleport to the
sort of
nearest
leapfrog,
available hex.
I think that's a beautiful part of the design, to be honest.
It's really good.
You don't have to play the full turn of the Automas.
Yeah.
You just get a sense of what they're doing.
You don't have to worry about resource management.
You don't have to worry about the resources. You don't even use the secondary board to, see what monuments and stuff they're building. Mm-hmm. All you get is the impact of their moves on the game. Yeah. And it's very cleverly done. They generate gold, they generate workers and mechs and stuff, and they do all the things that are going to directly affect you without any of the sort of boring upkeep that you would have to do if you were running them as a full player. So I think in that respect, Morten and his gang have sort of captured those core elements of play really well. And even managing 4 AIs tonight with the app, we were rattling through their turns pretty quickly.
Yeah, the AI turns went past really quickly. We started to get a really good idea of how they did move around and how they'd conduct strategy and stuff. So you could see which pockets they might possibly move into, and if you've left a worker at the edges, periphery of your territory, both of your hexes alone, they're going to get attacked, so you need to back them up with a character or with a mech. And I kept putting mechs down and just not moving them for fear that someone's going to come in and sweep across my territory.
Yeah, they do go for your workers if you leave them. They'll pick off your workers if you leave them unattended.
They were using your tactic, which you didn't use today, which was the factory rush as well, because they kind of brought the factory into play really quickly,
much earlier.
Yeah. And that's what. When I've played you, Leki, that's normally you're all about the factory, so maybe they took the wind out of your sails with that one. But actually, it was the first time that I've ever sort of gone near the factory, and I never used to in previous games get to sort of hung up on that. But when I got near to Tristan towards the end, I just got this rush of blood for the factory, and it seemed more important than it was, I guess.
Well, you took it with the wrong unit, didn't you? You took it with a mech, so you didn't get the factory card, which threw a little confusion into the mix. But they took it early. The Tagawa AI took it and controlled it for a long time. Yeah. And then they started rucking in the middle whilst we were sort of snaking our way towards it. But then even by the time I did get the factory, I got to use the actual factory card once before Daz ended the game by placing his 6th star.
Yeah.
And as always with Scythe, it ends way before you're ready for it. After so many games with it, you'd think I'd see it coming. But even talking about it, it's it must be ending soon. You're still looking at your board going, but I need to put down all these different resources and monuments. And
Yeah, there's always 4 more goes that you need, isn't there? Even when you think you're playing quite comfortably.
10 more resources.
Yeah. And also it's good how the Automa, like the way they just mob the entire board. Obviously they've only got 4 mechs each, so all the empty axes fill up with workers. Like the cardinal rule of Scythe when you're playing against other human beings is you can't touch a worker on its own because it's going to bring your popularity down.
Yeah.
But you have to, because otherwise you're not going to get any sort of foothold on the map. So it was like a really interesting dynamic of like just going around murdering these farm workers. And it's like, how do you then rebuff your popularity but to actually score points after the back of that?
Well, with 3 of us, the board would be mostly empty, wouldn't it? And we'd be, we'd have much larger empires, you'd have much bigger points and stuff. But with all 4 AIs in play at once, the board was completely full by the end. But very early on, as you say, you're kind of hemmed in by just workers. And it definitely becomes a case of, right, I've got to take some of these guys out and send them back home, because for every space they're possessing, even if you can lose popularity for taking it, if you don't, it's going to add to their victory points at the end. And they all scored pretty highly, against us. So, no, it does create a lot of interesting decision space in terms of how aggressive you need to be to fight back against them.
It's quite an efficient system in terms of gameplay, because the Automa will kind of get through all their stars at a steady rate. They'll move across the board at a steady rate, although it's quite alarmingly quickly to you. They're going about it, turn by turn, like everybody else is. So you don't really feel cheated, but when they do well, and at the same time you don't feel like, if you start hammering one of them, then it's it's a good feeling to be like, I'm getting ahead in this game. But again, it's not like a significant achievement at the easy level. It's just really nicely done in order to like bring that extra challenge into the game without breaking it really, or making anyone feel like, oh no, we've all kind of been pushed out of it. It's as well like the Automa can beat you. Yeah. So that's really something to kind of think about and move ahead for. Did we have an outright winner, or did the Automa completely destroy us?
I did.
There we go.
Nice. I did manage to beat them.
I got beaten by 2 of them.
So you sort of landed in the middle of them, didn't you?
Beat 2 of them, so there's some achievement there. Oh, and you.
I came dead last, I think. But hey, Automa.
It does invite chaos as well, and I think it's probably wrong to include all 4 of them and like fill up the entire board so quickly. It might have been better to just add a couple, just to throw a bit of variety into the mix.
We were so cocky though, like there's nothing that was going to stop us, especially when our like the initial setup procedure wasn't going entirely to plan. So our way of getting around it, instead of reducing it to 2, was let's just put an extra one in. That'll sort of fix it, surely. 2 in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, there was a bit of confusion when I was setting up the app. It didn't like 3 humans and 4 AIs, so I had to reset it as just 4 AIs and pretend we weren't there, which the app doesn't really notice then. So that's just something I'd have to report to the guy who runs it, but it was a bit weird. But once we figured that out, it ran pretty smoothly. We didn't put the wind gambit in, which I'd like to do next time. Maybe reduce the number of AIs. Depends how many players we have.
Yeah, exactly.
If we had 5 players, I think 2 AI would be easier to manage. But one thing it's really done is whet my appetite for the Rise of Fenris expansion that's coming this month with the co-op, legacy, modules, and everything else. Because it always just reminds me how cleanly designed it is and how cleverly all of the actions interact with each other, the bottom row and top row stuff, and it's such a cool game.
Well, one of the things that's kind of put me off getting Scythe in the past, from the point of like a personal purchase, because you've got it, so I can play it when I come around hopefully, is that how well would it play solo? But now playing with the Automas and seeing how they operate, and knowing that it's not too much upkeep, like you're saying, like the app runs really well, or if you don't have the app, then there's a deck of cards that will manage it in the same way. It's just like a bit more homework for you to kind of investigate what each one's doing and keep on top of those. I think they'll make a brilliant solo game. So again, it's like, oh, there's something worth looking into there.
I think it's a great solo experience, and I think you and Sam complained about this last time, that I'd played too much solo, and I think it gives you the edge a bit maybe, because you learn like more how to maximize your moves and stuff a little bit.
Well, you definitely have definitive strategies, such as like get all the enlist all the recruits straight away.
There's lots of different
Things like
strategies,
that.
but one of my favourites is enlist, because as soon as you get all of your enlist recruits out, you're gaining the benefit of other people doing the bottom row actions. It's not always the best thing to do, because you might have a civ that doesn't produce food as well, in which case you have to sort of trade for those. But if you can get those down early, I've found, in my humble experience, you do, you could just be doing something and I gain popularity or, gold out of it, and that soon starts to rack up. The earlier you get that done, the earlier you gain the benefits from it. But it's kind of like anything else, if you get a windmill down early, you're suddenly producing 150% resources kind of thing. So, like in that game, none of us had any wood. It just transpired that we couldn't build any buildings.
Yeah.
So that you always have to sort of react to A, the civ that you get dealt, B, the engineering, agriculture, or whatever the secondary ideology of your civ is, and C, your location and everything, and how, in this case, how the AI was playing out. So it's always, for me, it's always different, and I never feel like I know like Crimea I played today, I don't feel like, oh yeah, I know these guys backwards. You just have to sort of go, oh crap, if I do this, I'll get gold, and and work out what the best approach is.
And then you remember that you've got the secret mission cards halfway through, and that completely changes your train of thought, and you go hell for leather on something else that's telling you to do. But I managed to achieve that in this game, but then the previous strategy had gone out of the window trying to get that. So it's it throws a lot into the mix, doesn't it?
I'll do what I do and realise halfway through that I can't actually fulfil the mission cards now because I've built too many workers.
There's so much. Well, I basically, like, to much to my chagrin, Daz ended the game just before I was going to move my character into a hex to fulfill one of my secret objectives.
Boo,
and
Daz.
get a combat star and get extra hex VPs. But I should have done it.
You don't sound bitter about that at all.
No, I'm never bitter. I never hold grudges. I always like to think that I lose games, with a lot of grace. It never seems to happen outright, but one day. But yeah, it's maybe something I should have done earlier in the game, but it's the game that Scythe is, isn't it? You're not going to achieve everything that you're meant to achieve. It's impossible.
That game is impossible.
No, I love it. It's always a great challenge, and like you're saying, with the way that the characters, each faction and then the ideologies are set up, it's always going to give you a slight puzzle at the beginning of how do you build an engine that's going to be efficient enough to win with the game.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. And that maybe monkey see, monkey do in the terms of me trying to enlist all my recruits straight away could be why I kind of back myself into a corner, because it takes a lot of resources to do that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of resources to just push out all of your mechs or to try and get all the upgrades. And if that's all you're concentrating on and it's potentially not the right thing for the combination you've got, then it could probably set you back. So, yeah, it's a good point. Maybe I should think about that next time I play.
Yes, Scythe. It's one of those games I'm happy to break out whenever we can. And since Dave's not here and he doesn't like it when he's not, we have to break it out and play it.
So, Daz, would you rate playing Scythe with or without Automa for the next game?
I think I'd probably knock it down in terms of the amount of teams, so maybe just 2 next time, and try and space them out so there's a little bit more space in between us humans, so we don't get too penned in. But I'd definitely use them again because they mix things up quite a lot. Like the effect that it had with the building that no one, because that was partly to do with those as well, that we couldn't get into areas where you could get the wood resource, so nobody built, which is not something that's happened before in a game that I've played.
I mean, you can actually trade for wood, but none of us thought to do that.
Oh, I did it once. I did it once and built a monument, and you got a free monument from an encounter card. But yeah, all the forests were locked up deep
and the
in
encounters, they hoovered up all the encounters, so we didn't get to see those.
Yeah. It was interesting that people weren't really doing the resource action. For the life of me, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. This is going to frustrate me now.
Trade?
It was the other one. It was
Produce.
There we go. So produce actions were happening quite early on in the game, and we all did a few of them. And then all of a sudden, once all that secondary actions had been spent up. We just forgot about it and just traded.
I think that's because, like, you and me run those 2 hex empires for so
Yeah.
long. We'd produced literally all of the food that you could get.
But compared to last game, where I think I traded like 3 times and produced every other turn, it was, it's incredible how much just adding some AI players to scoop up all the hexes.
Yeah, I think
change that.
with humans as well, we were producing more workers because you could spread them out more easily, whereas there was nowhere to put individual workers. So I don't think any of us got a worker star this time.
No. I got about 3 workers out, 2 workers out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got 4 in the end.
Yeah, out of a total of 8, and I think I did the same as you, 4. So it does change the dynamic quite a lot because you don't know what's going to be limited, what's going to be threatened, and like we mentioned before, if you do produce loads of workers and leave them spread out, the AI will just gobble them up. Like, they have no qualms about it. They don't lose popularity from doing it. They just sit at 10 popularity throughout the game. So no, it's good. You've got to protect your people and not spread yourself too thinly. And then decide when to strike into the heart of their empires and start churning their workers.
Well, that's it. And it's worth mentioning as well that the Automa rules aren't necessarily unique to Scythe. Morten's created similar sorts of systems for other games, hasn't he? So
Correct, yeah.
those would be well worth sort of sniffing out and seeing how they've changed the game and developed the game as well.
Yeah, I think Jamie employs them now for each game. So they've done it for Viticulture, Charterstone, and others. And it's nice to see their little logo on like boxes like the Scythe box and stuff, because the effort that goes into making these rules play like other players without the ball ache and the upkeep is very clever and very cool.
There must be a crazy amount of playtesting out there. What was the name of the app as well? Was it Scythe Kick, did you say?
Scythe Kick is the app, which is, I forget the name of the guy who's designed it, but he's done an excellent job, and I believe it has been endorsed by Jamie Steigmaier and the team, and rightly so, because it just handles the decks for you. Otherwise, you would be shuffling 1 deck per AI sort of thing, which you could do, but it'd just get a bit
You have to share it around the table, really,
painful.
wouldn't you? And
I think so.
I think I can imagine that getting quite boggy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Technology to the rescue there.
Yeah, it's not often I argue for the integration of apps with games, but I think in this case, if you are going to play with the Automas, it's probably the best way to do it.
Manchester of Madness would disagree. Like, improve
I
the
would
game
disagree. Why are we not
400%.
playing that? That's a great game.
Okay, well, there you have it. Scythe, a brilliant game made all the more brilliant by the Automa rules. So well done, Morten. Well done, Jamie. We'll be back for more gaming next week, and we'll see you then. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.